the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live. The monitor descended the damn wall. I will try to get you another view. I'm Nat.Geo Smith. I have Jean-Dre heading on camera. We have James and Dangerous Dave out in the other vehicles, and Geraldine and Kirsten in final control, and Jamie out on tracking team. Hopefully we're going to catch up with those lions we're tracking this morning. And let's see if we can show you the second largest reptile we get at Djuma. It hasn't disappeared completely. There he is, Jean-Dre. So there he is. And he sat so nice out in the open for such a long time. A little bit of warmth after these cool days, causing him to come out and forage. So he's quite an effective little predator, as well as a very effective scavenger. So we're in, Jean-Dre. And obviously a very happy monitor after the rain. They'll eat lots of different things: frogs, fish, birds if they can catch them, eggs of various different creatures, lots of different insects as well. Oh, looks like he might have sniffed something out there. Now when he turns his head, you'll notice his tongue slipping in and out. There we go. Tasting the air almost. An incredible senses they have to be able to pick up any sort of dead or rotting flesh. Oh, is he having a little dig there? What you found, mister? So I'm sure he's been gorging himself on any termites he could have found earlier in the day. And using that tongue extensively. Oh, he thinks he's found something around there. No. You can see his ear hole as well when he turns his head to the side. Nice, relaxed, quite a big one. Now their cousin, the rock monitor, gets a little bit bigger than he does and heavier. Very slow, deliberate movements as he hunts through the undergrowth there. So it seems like we're having a little bit of trouble with the Twitter sphere on this sunset safari, but emails seem to be working. So if you'd like to send us any questions, please feel free to do that on questions@wildearth.tv. And as soon as Twitter's back up and running, either James or myself will let you know. You can see those massive claws you can use for digging. And quite often when confronted with a potential predator, they use their tail as a defense mechanism, swinging it around like a whip. And I can tell you, after being whipped by a monitor lizard, it is a very painful experience. I was trying to remove my dogs from attacking one, and in aiding the monitor lizard, I got a severe beating. Well, we'll let him continue on. We're going to do the same. Very slowly going to make my way back towards where we had those last lion tracks in Arathusa this morning. Now, Dave seems to think he saw a lion after drive today while he was at the car park. The rest of us are not quite convinced. I took a walk with Dave to where he said he saw the lion crossing underneath the power lines. I couldn't find any tracks, but he said it was chasing an impala. And we're going to go check now up the main access road. Maybe we'll find some tracks there. And hopefully for Dave's sake, he'll be vindicated. Otherwise, there'll be much mocking and ribbing. So, we're going to continue on, and while we do that, let's go to Commander Bond so he can bid you a good evening.
Hello everybody, good afternoon, wherever you happen to find yourself on this our fine and only planet here in the solar system, commonly known as the solar system. I'm sure there are many others, but this is the only one that we are a part of. My name is James Hendry, and on camera today is David the Lion Spotter Eastor. Well, so he says. Anyway, David, as Brent told you, saw a lion running past the gate today, chasing a hapless impala. Now, what we've done is come into around the area. We've got up there, you started off with some grey go-away birds, and they are, of course, shouting, "Quack! Quack!" which is an alarm call of sorts. And then, off to the left-hand side of your screen, we can hear some squirrels alarm calling. So what we're going to do is just take a gentle drive up this little ridge here and see if we can't spot anything. It's not entirely unusual for a lioness to move around on a cool day like it was this morning. It's also, of course, as we discovered this morning, very difficult to track them on the hard, crusted ground that tends to occur, I suppose, form after rain comes. Now, you are on a live safari, as I'm sure Brent told you. You are in the northeastern corner of South Africa, which I'm also sure he told you, and our Twitter feed is not working at the moment. So please, if you want to send questions, and we encourage you to do so, anything you like, ask us about the country, ask us about the continent, ask us about the wildlife we're seeing, ask us about wildlife that we might see. Questions at WildEarthTV if you're on the email. Otherwise, the YouTube chat function seems to work remarkably well. That's how you can get hold of us. You are most welcome. It's good to have you with us. Let's just have a little poke our heads up this little road here and see if there's a lioness. And if there isn't, we'll see what other marvellous things in the wilderness there are to see today. You may notice, of course, on my chest, I seem to have a honey badger attached to me. That is not, in fact, a honey badger. It is a makeshift wind filter to my hair slightly. I'm not going to show you the top of my head, of course, because there isn't any hair there to chop. Questions at WildEarthTV should you wish to comment on my hair. So the squirrel. We're just going to look through the bushes there. It's very thick, so I don't think we're going to spend too much time here. We'll just have a quick look-see. And also, of course, when the ground is wet like this, we can only drive off-road on very kind of well-drained soils. And those well-drained soils occur in ridge crests, and we're not really on a ridge crest here, and so we need to be very careful about leaving ruts and making a bit of a mess. We'll stop here and have another listen. And as it starts to get warmer, and it's quite nice, it's actually very pleasant temperatures, probably about 27 degrees, 28, 82 degrees Fahrenheit. As it starts to get warmer, so the insects are going to start popping out, so the birds will start calling a bit louder. And it's just a rather nice feeling of expectation that we get, and a bit of heat after the rain that we've had. Blessed rain that it was. The squirrel has seemingly gone to sleep. David, there's a robber fly there. I don't suppose you can see it on the bonnet. Nowhere near where you're looking. There we go. He's just... No, you can't see him. He's in the way. There's quite a magnificent fly there, but I'm not going to get him because he'll bite me, and then I'll probably cry, which will be very unbecoming, very unmanly. Okay, no lion here. Let's press on. See what else we can find. Hello, Ashley. I love this question because it's always fascinated me. And what hasn't always, it's fascinated me until the day that I noticed precisely what you're asking about. And that then led me to look at other parts of the skeletal anatomy of various animals. And you say, isn't it true that an elephant only has one set of knees? That is absolutely true. And that the knees on the front legs are in fact elbows. No, the knees on the front legs are not elbows. If you, and you can do this if you're feeling particularly athletic, if you go down on all fours and then put your feet up, so basically like a downward dog position if you like, without your bottom in the air because that's just uncomfortable. And that is basically how an elephant and every single four-footed animal is constructed. So that bend, that frontward-facing bend on an elephant's feet is the wrist. It's the wrist joint. It's the equivalent of the wrist joint. And from there, obviously, the carpal joints are a lot longer. The elbow is actually just under where you would think of the shoulder being. So what we describe as the shoulder, the front shoulder, is actually the elbow joint there, and then the shoulder, this part of the bone, the what do they call it, radius and ulna, at least the humerus, is much shorter on something like an elephant proportionately, and that goes up into the body. I might actually try and draw it for you. I'm a terrible artist, but let me just have a go because I'm not sure I'm being as clear as I might. Geraldine will not be able to speak to me. Right, I will talk loudly because I think I will. Can you just shout if you can't hear me, will you, David?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we draw an elephant's foot, I really am a terrible artiste. Can you see this?
Yes.
That's the foot, right? We go up to what we would call the knee joint, but that's actually the equivalent of the wrist joint. Then we'd go up to. Let's draw the other bit here. The stomach here. And that would sort of go to the neck and head. And in here, this joint here, that allows this articulation here where the leg moves frontwards and forwards, that is the elbow joint there. Okay? And then the shoulder is up inside here. So that would go around to the elephant. His trunk would be over here. His head would be something like that, and his body would look like that. That looks like a kiwi, doesn't it, David? It looks like a kiwi bird. Okay, so there's the wrist, there is the elbow, there the shoulder is up in here, and it would actually extend pretty much to the withers over there. So huge scapula, huge big shoulder bone there, and then the joint in there will eventually be joined to the elbow by a radius, elbow, and wrist, and then the carpal joints will go, the fingers will sort of go all the way down into the foot. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea. Now, if you look at any kind of animal, a bat is a wonderful example. We're all kind of built the same way. And if you look at a bat, and I've explained this once before, but if you go and find a picture of a bat on the internet if you can, I don't have a good one here, and you'll find that the membranes of the wings are spread amongst very long fingers, and that's what holds them all in place. 5 long fingers and very short kind of arms that hold them onto the body. Lovely question, Ashley. And of course, this leads on to hundreds and hundreds of different kind of discussions on the anatomy and skeletons of various animals, not only mammals. But it shows how closely related we are, because the structure is very, very similar. We all have the same similarities, and if you look at the back leg, I'm not going to attempt to draw the back leg of the elephant or the kiwi bird, depending on what you like. Jerry says that looked like a platypus. This is really astonishing how somebody can be so incompetent at drawing. But if you look at the back leg, it's the same thing. So that sort of back leg, knee joint on a kettle.
So we've checked very extensively the area of that mystery line, and I'm just going to let James know my update. James.
Hey.
James, could you ask Dave if he's sure it wasn't a kudu chasing an impala that he saw?
Negative. He said it was a lion and prefaced that with an expletive.
Okay, copy. Yeah, I've checked very carefully all along the edge of Virtilla access, and I've only got hyena tracks there, so I'm going to leave the area.
Okay, copy.
So I couldn't find any sign there was a lion. Hopefully, for Dangerous Dave or Dazzling Dave's sake, it is found at some point. Otherwise, as I said earlier, I think there might be a little bit of teasing for the next few days. So, hi Neville, how you doing?
Very good, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad.
You're on the right road.
Yeah, you're on the right road. There's Steph's waiting for you. Okay, so we've got a new viewer, a very warm Safari Live welcome to Anki Pank, and who is a new viewer and would like to know, where in Africa are you? Well, we will start on the major scale and work our way down to the minor scale. We are in the country of South Africa. More intently, we are on the eastern side, or the northeastern section of the country, in the province or state of Mpumalanga, which basically means where the sun comes up, so a very good name for the eastern province, as the sun rises in the east. And if we go even smaller, we're a part of what is called the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, which is 3.9 million hectares, or around just over 8 million acres of unfenced wilderness for animals. And if we go even smaller, we're within the Greater Kruger National Park, which is about 2.4 million hectares, about 4.5 million acres of unfenced wilderness. And if we go even smaller, we're within the Sabi Sands Private Game Reserve, which is a privately owned piece of land where there are no fences between it, elephants, and the Kruger National Park. And if we go even smaller within the Sabi Sands, we're right up in the north, and working in an area called Djuma and Arathusa Private Game Reserves. And we have now just come across a nice breeding herd of elephants, and it looks like they're going to come straight towards us. Hello, oily finks. Nice little guy there. Looks like quite a big herd spread out through the bush here. I'll be quite happy after this little bit of rain. I'm hoping these guys are going to head up towards a nice mud wallow that I know of for a bit of splish splash. Yeah, nice adult female. See, she's seeping from her temporal gland slightly. There can be sometimes a sign of stress. Oh, look at the little guys. We've got an inquisitive one. Hello, little boy. And that's definitely a little boy. You see his tushes or tusks just coming out. And probably just over a year now. Giving us a good once over. And here comes one of the great grand dams of this herd. You can see a big old adult female. Nice set of ivory on it. Oh, amazing how such big animals can move so quietly through the bush. Another big female coming through. Another oldish female. If we look on her head, you can see slight indentations above her eye. And as elephants get older, those seem to become more pronounced. I'm guessing she's probably around 40. And if we look down towards her teats, elephant argument there. One of the babies got in the wrong way, wrong place, and got a severe talking to by the adults. And it looks like we're in for a treat because they are heading straight towards that mud wallow. Shambu and Love, slowly mobile west on Virtilla access. Just at the junction, sandy patch with access. So a lot of you might be wondering what I was doing there. I was just letting all the other game drives around know what we found, and because finding animals is a team game, the more we communicate, the more areas we can cover and the best sightings we can find for you. There you go, a great big grey bottom. I can actually hear them even more off to the left in the bush as well. So there could be quite a few around here. And see, stopped for a quick snack on a bush willow. Let's get a little closer. So it's very important to stay very calm and relaxed around elephants. You can tell from their body language whether they want you around or not. And these guys are very relaxed, so I feel not a worry about getting closer to them. You can see tail wagging happily. They extend their tail straight or upright. It's a sign of them being uncomfortable. And when you do see that with elephants, it's often a good time to give them some space. Massive animals, a big female like that's probably weighing around 3.5 tons. A big male can be as much as 6 tons. Always try to keep your gear in low range. Hello, little man. So that's very distinct little elephant bull behavior. They like to be very big and tough, and they quite often come running up to the vehicle. But as long as mom's close by, so you guys might just hear some beeping for a few seconds now. We're just turning on our virtual reality rig. There it is. So you can see the herd is starting to spread out and feed when they get into an area. So we've got elephants on both sides of us. I am hoping some of them do make their way towards that mud wallow, which is just over the ridge here. There's nothing quite as cute as a baby elephant enjoying a mud bath. So on a lot of animals we see out here in the African bush, we see them quite often accompanied by a little bird called an oxpecker that feeds off ectoparasites such as ticks and lice. And you'll notice we never see them on elephant. And I wonder if anyone out there can tell me why we don't see them on elephant. And if you know the reason, you can send your answers through to questions at WildEarthTV. See how clever you all are. I'm just going to try and move a little bit forward so this female isn't behind the stick for you. Oh, she's going to move on as well. Just slowly moving through the bush. Feeding as they go, which is a constant thing for elephants. Being so big, they really do need to feed a lot. Here you go. Hello, mister. The ears out. So that behavior from young animals isn't so, oh, there we go, middle of the road. There's going to be a bit of playfulness. Yes, little boys, a bit of rough and tumble. Boys will be boys. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to see what's happening with my radio. So while I try to fix that, why don't you guys enjoy these eddies for a second? So guys, I just need to try to fix my radio. Those elephants have gone into the bush. While we do that, let's go have a look what James is up to.
Hello everybody, we've found nothing. We were just stopped here sort of having a look at quarantine clearings, doing one or two administrative issues here on the car. Anyway, what I did want to say has now slipped my mind, because we were talking about the skeletal anatomy of various animals. Ooh, there's a bird up there. It's a grey-headed sparrow, I think. Yes, it is. Now, if we take the little discussion that we were having, and Dave, there's also a black, southern black tit just to the left-hand side, and another grey-headed sparrow, probably Mr. and Mrs. Sparrow and Mr. Black Tit. What I was saying about the skeletal anatomy of various animals was that they are so similar. And even birds, if you look at their skeletons, you cannot help but be struck by the similarity of structure to, first of all, reptiles, then to mammals, and of course amphibians. All have got 4 limbs. Every single vertebrate, i.e. animal with an internal skeleton or backbone, has got a similar structure in terms of the limbs. Yes, there are modifications, as I explained with the bat, and as I showed you with the elephant, as Ashley has looked, and I hope that those of you who have got cats and dogs at home are examining those, and those who are perhaps looking at this at the office, or maybe you hauled a colleague into your cubicle to have a thorough examination of their skeletal anatomy, just to make sure that I'm talking the truth. But the interesting thing to me, of course, is the genetic closeness. Now, you will hear and you will read that we are, depending on which way you look at it, about 98.6% the same as a chimpanzee. That's what our DNA is. Now, that's not particularly remarkable when you consider that we're about 50% the same as a banana, I'm reliably told by a professor of anthropology. Not particularly amazing, but it is incredible to think that we're only 1.6% different DNA-wise from a chimpanzee. And if we are 50% the same as a banana DNA-wise, I know that sounds outlandish, but it is true. We are very closely related to that southern black tit, to the nyala, to the impala, to the elephant, to the animals that we have around here. And it's all just, the more different you get, the more that is beautifully laid out in the fossil record. And it just shows a remarkable contiguous evolution and speciation of species, and it is just a marvelous thing to watch as you go through nature. And of course, a wonderful saying that I really enjoy is that you can't really study nature but through the eyes of evolution. Now, how it all occurred, we're not really sure, but to see how animals have adapted to their environments and how closely related we all are, I think is just a remarkable thing. Now, we're going to continue along the route that hopefully will bring us to David's lion. A couple of hyena tracks here. But given the uncertainty and the lack of ability to drive off-road, we're going to probably not spend a huge amount of time looking. We'll go in search of other things. David saw his lion, Debbie, at what time, Dave? Just after drive?
Just after drive, yeah.
About 9 o'clock. About 9 o'clock, David was having a morning constitutional outside, considering life and philosophy and all things that are important. And a lion went running past. Now, Debbie, you say maybe it is having a drink. That's why we went to Gallagher Pan. We did have a look, but no tracks there. And that was from there that we heard the grey go-away birds going, quack, quack. But unfortunately, they didn't seem to be shouting at anything particularly significant. Now, everybody, Brian, of course, is now become completely obsessive about taking a time lapse once a day. And every time I drive around, I think I'm surely not going to find Brian's tripod, and there it is. I found it again. It turns up in the most obscure places. Anyway, it's good to keep the creative juices flowing, these time lapses and personal little videos that we take. I took a remarkable little picture, which I will post at some stage, of a terrapin today in a pan. And of course, these fancy cameras these days, you can stick them in the water. And we got some really nice results of a terrapin sticking his head out of the water with brilliant gold and red colors, which you don't see when you look at terrapins from afar. There is an impala or two, possibly related to the ones that David's lion was chasing. David, I'm sad that the lion wasn't a male, because then of course we could call it David, but as it is a female, we can't really call it David, can we? So young impala and its mother, and her mother, no, his mother, look, he's got his little horns. You see his little horns have come up. I don't know where the rest of them would be. They must be off in the thicket there somewhere. It'd be very dangerous for them to be lurking about here on their own. The thing about it being a grazing animal, of course, is that you have got to, at some stage, put your head down. Now, no matter how well you're designed, when you put your head down, you are not going to see as well as you would otherwise. And I learned something the other day from an article that a viewer sent through, and that is that, you know how, I'm just trying to think what the best example, if you look at a cow's eye or a horse's eye, they've got a kind of, it's not a slit pupil, but it's a kind of rectangular pupil. And what the eye is able to do is that when they put their heads down, unlike you, if you put your head down where you're sitting now, your vision can blur slightly because your eyeball is unable to adjust within its socket. It's pretty much fixed to looking straight out in one direction. That's why if you lie on your side, it takes a little while to get used to watching the television if you're on the couch. That's beside the point. But one of these animals can, if they put their heads down, their eyes automatically swivel so that they're looking upwards. They're looking at an angle like that when they're grazing. So it does help them, but they're certainly not nearly as aware as when they're looking around like they are now. On we go. Flying termites. Hello Jack, you're in Sweden and you want to know why it is that I say we can't drive off-road. We can in some areas, Jack, but in areas like... Here's a really good example. Jack, if we look off to the left-hand side here, you can see that this area is inundated with water. Now, if we drive off-road there in a great big heavy vehicle, we leave a rut. That rut turns into a site of erosion and creates damage. And that's why we don't drive off-road too much after a heavy rain like we had. Remember, we had almost 70 millimeters, almost 4 inches of rain. That's a huge amount of rain. So for the next few days, we're going to be a little bit more cautious about driving off-road. Dave, there are a whole lot of actually flying ants, not termites. These are genuine flying ants. Look at them here. Can you see them? I'm not sure if the camera can see them. There we go. Look at that. Now, many of you will have learned that, or certainly referred to flying termites as flying ants, but they are not, of course. A termite is most closely related to a cockroach. Look at that. These are actually flying ants. They're royal ants that are going to start off their own colonies. So it's an example of what we call convergent evolution, where two completely distinct orders of insects have developed the same strategy for breeding. Isn't that amazing? They're all around us. Obviously very difficult to try and find them with a camera, but you can see them flying past there as that thunderous steel grey sky moves overhead. David, I think you'd probably get an award if you can track a flying ant with a camera. Look at millions of them in front of us. And they're hovering. They're much easier to film than the termites, which tend to move a lot faster. I've got no idea what species of ant they are. And like I've said before, the invertebrate diversity is quite intimidating. To say that they are flying ants is like basically saying that's an antelope. Or, you know, if we were referring to animals, it would be to say that's a carnivore. Seeing a lion and saying, well, that's a carnivore, don't know which one. That's how many hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of ants there are. How cool is that? Very cool. Now, an ant belongs to the order Hymenoptera, same as the bees, and same as the, what's the other one? Bees and the wasps. And that means that the queen, now this is for those of you who are into your kind of slightly more deeper biology, the queen is what we call haploid. No, not haploid, the workers are haploid, which means they don't, like you, have 2 copies of DNA, like they would with a termite. They're basically clones of each other. Female clones of each other, they only have 1 set of DNA. The queen in a hymenopterid nest, or an ant or bee's nest, only breeds once with a drone or with a male. And for the rest of the time, she doesn't breed at all. And so the youngsters that she produces are sterile, and they only have 1 set of DNA. That is so cool. Right, on we go, David. Enough of the ants. Let's find your line, please. But I think it'll be okay. Lots of them out here. Off to Arathusa to see if he can find.
So we've crossed into Arathusa and I'm slowly making my way back towards where we had those last tracks. And hopefully we'll have a little bit more luck. They sent us on a proper wild goose chase this morning in all sorts of directions. But hopefully we'll be able to find them. The sunset safari. So, for those of you who might have missed the sunrise safari, we're looking for the Nkahuma Pride. And the tracks went from Sibambili onto Arathusa overnight. And we had tracks of them chasing zebra, chasing giraffe, chasing pretty much everything. But such a mix, mash, and myriad of tracks. It was very difficult to get a genuine direction for them. But we all think they're somewhere in this area up ahead of us. Well done to Marilyn in Montana. We saw a leopard-faced vulture on the Sunrise Safari while we're searching for those lines. And that's 137 on Marilyn's bird list. So well done, Marilyn. So we've had a couple of answers in for the oxpecker and elephant quiz, and someone said it was the skin was too thick, which is not the case. They do get quite a lot of ticks. And Mary in Michigan said they don't like them, so they chase them away. That is a very correct, Mary. Even they have an appendage that none of the other animals can, because the oxpeckers can be quite irritating. We'll often see buffalo sort of to try and get rid of it. But they have their trunk, so they're actually able to reach around and chase oxpeckers in a way that a lot of the other species would not be able to. Ooh, a bit muddy here. Hey guys, just have to.
Welcome back. How many guys are putting up on those in Gala? Thanks for that, you too. Welcome back. But Sean and the beer at the moment. I was in the area, but I'm not going to hang around anymore too long this side. So if you want to make your way as a third, you can. Give Sean a shot.
So I was following up with Sean and De Beer this morning. I just want to try and get hold of Sean now. Sean. Sean or De Beer coming? Our stations, I'd like to be the third following up on those in Gala, coming in from Sibambeli, Arathusa cut line. Sorry, Sean, I missed that there. Sorry, guys. Sometimes our radio comms can be a bit... Well, we're in the right area. So, Sean, it was Sean we were following up with this morning and De Beer. And so what Sean's saying is his tracker is on foot, following those tracks in the direction that towards this road we're on. So fingers crossed, we come across that. Nope, false alarm. Just saw a slight different color there next to the torchwood. About it was nothing. unfortunately. So while we continue to search for these lions, let's go across to James, who's with the largest ruminant in the world.
Okay. There is a giraffe, everybody, very clearly seen by his, well, reticulated shape, I suppose, but I don't want to give you the impression that he's a reticulated giraffe. He is not. He's a southern giraffe, one of 9 giraffe subspecies. Now, if you would like to, and Twitter is working again, #SafariLive, please tell us what those other 9 species are. You may not, under any circumstances, consult the oracle that is Google or Wikipedia. So let's try and get them just simply from your memory. If you can get all 9, well, you don't have to send through 9, send through as many as you know, and we'll try and get all 9 between us. I can never remember them all. You can start with the southern giraffe, and I've given you the reticulated. You need another 7. None of them occur here. And I love that one in the middle there. He's my favorite. He's got little paintbrushes on the top of his head. See? Totally useless to someone like me, of course, given my artistic talent, as you saw it earlier. But there you can see he's got these little tufts of hair on the top of his head. I've never seen that before. I'm not sure why I find it so amusing. There he is. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that chap was born just before October, so sort of in September, I guess it must have been. And so he is now October, November, almost 6 months old. He is a he, I think, isn't he? I'm pretty sure he's a he. He is a he. I'm sure that's the chap. And he was born around here. His mother is this gorgeous redhead just in front there. That's her eating there. She's got a really nice kind of chestnut colour to her patterning. And giraffe, of course, do have different kinds of patterns, different colours. Very pleasant afternoon out with the giraffes. Hello, Anki Pank. You're a new viewer, and your YouTube or Twitter handle, or whatever kind of handle it is, Anki Pank, is an interesting one. Where are you from in Europe, Anki Pank? You want to know why it is that giraffe do not live there, and it is a pity that they do not. You'll find that they do, actually. I've seen one in Ireland. It wasn't, of course, a wild giraffe. It was in a sort of Irish safari park. It was quite a disturbing sight to see. Anyway, they are around the place there. Anki Pank, they don't occur there like many of the animals of Africa because of the small matter of the Sahara Desert. And you'll find that the Sahara Desert, the biology of, or the biodiversity of the planet, north and south of the Sahara Desert, are profoundly different. It's not the same for some of the cats which have managed to get across. So lions, interestingly, used to be the most widespread animal, I think the widespread mammal in the world. They were found throughout Europe, and they were found all the way, obviously, through Africa. And I think, actually, they went into the New World as well. They were killed out there many, many years ago, many thousands of years ago. But giraffe, buffalo, zebra, hippo, rhino, elephants, all of them would have been stopped in any kind of northern migration by the great big Sahara Desert, which runs in a band across the north of Africa. And that's why the biology and the biota and the animals and plants and fauna and flora of the northern side of the Sahara Desert is so profoundly different from that to the south. So that's why, Anki Pank, wherever you happen to be in Europe, you don't happen to have them walking down the street outside your home. Let's go a little bit forward. Right, Herbert. See, I told you she was a magnificent redhead. Look at her. Herbert, you are what we describe here as taking the mickey. You say you get the great spotted giraffe, the long-necked giraffe, the Toys R Us giraffe, and one correct answer, the Rothschild giraffe. Your last answer is correct. Your others are utter nonsense, Herbert, but certainly good for a laugh. Thank you very much for that. We do enjoy a bit of humour now and then. Just move again. She's been tremendously confiding, this one. Mother of our little paintbrush friend. Hi. She's only now about 10 meters from us. Now that's about 33 feet, which is not very far at all. So thanks to Herbert, we have the southern giraffe, the reticulated, which I gave you. Herbert has given you the Rothschild giraffe. There she goes, wandering across the road. Now, I've been looking quite carefully at the animals, and obviously one of our major narratives at the moment is the drought and what's happening with the drought. And I've been watching quite a few of the animals, and I think the impala is starting to show signs of drought. Quite interestingly, they're all starting to look a bit skinny. I think, given the rain that we've just had, they'll probably start to put on a bit of condition now, which is good. The buffalo also starting to look a bit hippie, but the giraffes aren't. The giraffes are fine. And I think that's probably largely to do with the fact that they are browsing. They're not grazing. So there has, up till now, been enough for them to eat. Let's continue a little bit further forward. She's just being amazing. She's now about 5 meters from us, about 15 feet. This is incredible. So she stands, everyone, at about 2.5 to 3 meters. That's about 10 or 12 feet. That's much higher than 10 feet. It's at least 12 feet. 3.5 meters. So she's 12 to 14 feet tall at the head. And she's eating very selectively. So she had some combretum over here. Then she found the tannin a bit much in that. Now she's gone off and she's eating some black monkey thorn with vicious, vicious thorns. And the two tree species she's eating, of course, defend themselves in totally different ways. The combretum makes chemical defense, makes tannin, and the acacias make thorn defense, or kind of mechanical defense. Now, the reason that young bull is running is because I watched him trip over a tree. So he wasn't panicked by anything. He just tripped over a tree, and that's why he looks embarrassed. It's a beautiful afternoon. You can hear maybe the doves calling. You can hear the woodland kingfisher there. A couple of long-tailed or magpie shrikes. And all this because it is rainy, or it has been raining. The heat has brought out a number of insects. We've seen termites and flying ants and dung beetles, wonderful dung beetles come out to see us. And the birds, of course, will now be feasting upon them and singing for joy as they do so. All right, let us move on to the giraffe, David. Here comes the Toys R Us giraffe now. Don't panic. Very nice. Alrighty, on we go. Jerry, there we go. I'm hearing Jerry again. Hello, Christine on Twitter. You're obviously something of a giraffe fan. Let's see if I can get these all. Nubian, Thornycrofts, Rothschilds, Maasai, Reticulated, African, and South African, sorry. And what's the other one you said? West African and Kordofan. There we go. That's 8. We're missing one. And I think it's... which one is it? Can't remember. Oh, Dave. Oh, as I say, that's the 4th one I've seen today. It was a slender mongoose. But they don't ever sit still. Thank you, Christine. That was brilliant. Well done. I think we're missing one. I think I left one out when I read them out. Okay, so we got it. Don't forget, everyone, 9 of them. Unfortunately, that slender mongoose has disappeared. Right, so it goes. See what else we can find around the corner here. Always enjoyed the sight of these dead trees against the grey sky. Very atmospheric. Especially after the blinding heat of the summer. As I say sometimes, you know, I think it must be a bit incongruous for many of you who live under cloudy grey skies for a far greater proportion of the time than we do. Those of you who live in Britain and in Northern Europe and perhaps even bits of Southern Europe and parts of Canada, you live under much more cloudy sky than we do, and so when the cloud comes and we're also happy about it, you must think, are you mad? You're out of your mind. Because you obviously just wait for the sun most of the time. But after the summer we've had, it's such a relief to have this blanket of cooling cloud above us. It's so magnificent that it managed to deliver some rain at last. Right, we'll keep an eye out on the road for tracks here, but I'm a bit worried that Dave's giraffe is gone and done a runner on us. Dave's lion, sorry, not Dave's giraffe. Now, Naomi, you're in Pretoria, capital of our fine country, recently voted the most beautiful country in the world, probably by South Africans, as I've said, but they are absolutely correct. Naomi, you want to know about what the giraffe was eating, and because you've read that sometimes young trees or acacia trees will produce a substance that makes them distasteful, and the giraffe will move on. Naomi, the story is actually even more clever than that. The story goes, and it's not just acacia trees, it's a number of different species of trees. They actually communicate with each other, and they do it through means of pheromones. So, if you watch giraffe feeding in a grove of, say, acacia, berkey trees or black monkey thorn trees, they'll go to one tree, and then they will very seldom feed on the tree next to it. And they'll move sort of 4 or 5 trees along and feed on that tree, and then do the same thing again. Now, what happens when a tree is attacked by a predator, i.e. a herbivorous giraffe? It creates a response. So when you damage the tree, it creates a response. The tree increases the amount of tannin, which indeed does make it distasteful, and the giraffe will then move on. But the other thing that it does is produce a pheromone, which travels in the wind to other trees close by, and that causes those other trees to raise their tannin levels before the giraffe can even get there. And it's an absolutely brilliant adaptation, and it's been counterbalanced or counteracted, if you like, by a giraffe that will normally feed into the wind. So they won't feed downwind into the grove, they'll feed upwind into the grove, because that means, of course, that the pheromones can't travel to the trees that it wants to go and eat. Isn't that amazingly brilliant? So, Naomi, that's the story behind the tannins and the giraffe causing the trees to talk to each other. I believe Mopani trees do the same thing. I'm not sure if any of these Cabritums do that, but the acacias certainly do. All right, let's head across to Brent Leo Smith. He's got an update on his lion tracking expedition. We'll continue south. See you just now.
There you got some wildebeest and zebra. Now, we found tracks where the lions were chasing zebra. So I came to the furthest on. These might be the exact zebra the lions were chasing. So maybe the lions are still off to the south of us from where we are now. The zebra and wildebeest look quite relaxed. We bumped into some of the Arathusa trackers a few minutes ago, down in the Marikeni drainage, checking to see if the lions crossed out this direction. But so far, no luck. So we're going to go on a bit of a wider circle, back away from this area. And you can see the zebras starting to disappear off a bit into the thickets. Just the bottom showing. So, well, at least we've definitely concluded for sure that the lions aren't in this exact spot. They still could definitely be between us and the Marikeni Creek system. So we're going to slowly loop back around to there, maybe check a little bit further east than we were. We've got to go really slowly to see tracks at the moment. There's another wildebeest. Hello, mister. Enjoying the nice flush on the grass. And he just spotted the warthog piglets off to the left. He got a little bit of a fright, lifted his head quite quickly. You see them, Chandra? There we go. He's actually going to walk right and past them now. And piglet off to the right, off his bottom there. Also very much happy with this nice new green flash. And there's Mom off to the left, just behind the bush. And I did see another baby. I think she's got 2 piglets left. Doing quite well so far. Wildy going to follow the rest with the zebra. So Tom is wondering whether James and I have ever seen the elusive 7. Now, by the elusive 7, I presume, Tom, you mean the big 5 plus cheetah and wild dog. If that's the case, we have, most definitely. On quite a few occasions, I would think. So with this hard ground after the rain, just checking very, very carefully. We don't want to be the guys who miss the tracks. Nope. Nothing here. I'm feeling less confident the further we head this way. I'm definitely thinking there must be. Closer towards the drainage. And there's Shawnee. Some more zebra and impala off to the left. I think we're going to scoot past these ones and and go in search of those lions. Oh, there's some elephant coming as well. Just saw a big grey beast through the bushes. Quite far off the road. As you know, we won't be doing much off-roading after the rain. You see that ellie again, John-Ray? Here you go. Glove. There's lots down. Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. Eesh.
I walked on a huge loop through around just before Butskull, went back through, and now he's asking me to check Saffron.
Saffron?
Now, yeah?
I know, I just bumped into them in the Marikeni now.
Still on the corner.
I was going to go back around Bumper House that way.
I'll take a look. I'm going to go this way and check Saffron.
Awesome. Hopefully we manage to find these elusive lions at some point today.
And Nat.Geo, so
Yeah, cool.
we'll be in radio contact.
And we shall. Well, good luck.
So, looking all smart.
For once, you know.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Got to.
Cool, enjoy.
Brent,
Hi, everyone.
game drive.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's little antenna up there sending a thingamabob to somewhere else that eventually ends up everywhere.
Computer.
Yes, it's quite fancy. At least my job is not to explain that, but to look for animals. It's much more fun. Very cool. Enjoy. Good luck.
We'll see you at them.
Hopefully, yeah. Cheers. There we go. We're just bypassing Sean from Arathusa with his guests. He's also in search of the elusive Nkahuma pride. So these tracks are seriously giving us the run around. I mean, literally going east, west, north, south, every which direction. Oh, just hang on, we got some Franklin alarm calling, always worth a double check. More than likely from a mongoose or such other thing, but you never know. Shouting in this little erosion system here. Hey, we're going to jump across to James very quickly, who's got a great grey behemoth.
We just stopped right here. The elephants came out of the bush. We were doing a little take on a, well, you don't need to know about that, but this elephant cow has taken slight exception to us. It's a massive herd. They're all over here. She's quite young, so I'm not worried about her there. But I'm interested in why she's taken up a sort of point guard on and sort of defending us from the rest of the herd. It's a massive herd. I'm just going to be quiet. Just watch this. Watch them all coming through here. I'm just going to be very quiet. Try and count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, coming through the other side. There must be 50 elephants here. That was unbelievable. I don't know why they're running, except to say that they might be going to water. No, they've just stopped to eat. Let's see if they stop there. They're more than that. There are whole masses more in front of us streaming across the road, and they've headed into the bush. Gee whiz. Right, let me just, while my heart rate goes down a little bit. Dave, you all right? Amazing, smiling? Yes. Incredible. We were just parked here and we were doing recording an introduction for a sort of clip that we've been trying to make. And I heard, must have been the matriarch or one of them, just calling, that deep rumbling in the middle of the bush there. And I said, don't worry, Dave. It's a herd of elephants, let's carry on, let's do what we're doing. And then I sat down here and they just came out. And that youngish cow came walking towards us with that kind of angry lope. And then she stopped in front here. And it was almost like she was protecting the rest of the herd. She was saying to us, don't come any closer. Everybody, you go round me. I will protect you from this vehicle. And then the rest of them came and stopped and they assessed us. And then they walked off. And at no stage did I feel threatened. I did feel, though, that were we to go any further or go any, kind of make a noise or escalate the situation at all, then it could have got nasty. Wow. And we were just doing, one of the interviews we just were doing while we were off air was the one on elephants and how elephants have been around vehicles in the Sabi Sands for the last 30 years or so, and how it's become possible now to drive into the middle of a herd, and it leads to what we call Sabi Sands complacency syndrome, where you tend to view elephants after a while like you do impala, where you just drive into the middle of them and they don't even react to you when you're around. And it's always good to have a sighting like that, which just reminds you that that's an elephant, and you don't want to be trifling with elephants. What a wonderful sighting. Woo! Let's go a little bit further forward. I think they're actually going to pop out on the road around the side. Curious one, a nice question, and it goes deeper than the question you've asked. Sorry, I'm really getting a little tongue-tied because that was just so wonderfully exciting. Curious one. You want to know why young elephants put their trunks in their mouths when they're excited? Or, sorry, when they're not feeding. It's because they're excited. It's exactly the same as a child sucking its thumb. It gives them comfort, and they do it with each other as well. So elephants, if they're feeling nervous, will just reach their trunks into another elephant's mouth, and that's how they say hello and just sort of reassure each other that everything's okay. So that's what was going on there, curious one. And then the little ones, yeah, they'll just kind of put their trunks in their mouths if they feel a little uncomfortable. Just makes them feel a little bit more at home, and yeah, it's a bit like fidgeting as well. Wow, that was a really short, sharp, astonishing sighting. What I'm going to do is go down around the corner here, and we'll see if we can pick them up going across the next road, which is Philemon's cut line. I mean, the nearest water from here now would be Treehouse Dam. I'm not sure why they would be going there when there are so many other sources of cleaner water at the moment after the rain we've had. But maybe they they were spooked by a lion somewhere in the bush here. Maybe that's why they were a bit protective of each other. I'm not sure. Look at the cloud coming in from the south here. Ah, marvelous. So we won't be looking at the Nkahuma Pride today. They have been found outside of our area. Here are some dwarf mongoose. This is a little burrow of theirs. You can see them there watching us. Now what's so interesting here is that this termite mound is still full of termites. You see that? Termites, look at them. Look at the little ones. The other morning, Scott and I went out and we had a bit of a competition to see who could put his GoPro in front of the best termite mound dwarf mongoose. I failed dismally, but I think Scott got one a bit like this, and where was this one? Sorry everybody, I think I got a bit softer. Jerry, is that right? Okay, there we go. Microphone issues, everybody. The badger attached to my chest. These little chaps were just fantastic, and I don't know where they were the other morning when I was trying to find them. But as I say, the interesting thing to me here is that this termite mound is not unoccupied. It is full of termites, and I think that a few of them were probably eating termites. In fact, Dave, if you pan a little bit to the left, there's the one, or just behind, there's one there actually eating termites out of the mound. See that? In that wet bit, up a bit, and to that's left of your picture. He's eating little termites, little blighter, eating his hosts. This is a magnificent sighting. They are only about 3 feet from us. So earlier, Monique, you're in London. You asked a question earlier about what would eat those flying ants that we saw. Monique, largely birds, you know. It would be things like swifts and swallows and bee-eaters and drongos and those sorts of things which would eat those flying ants, unless they, of course, landed on the ground, in which case then something like a dwarf mongoose might eat them. But remember that an ant has often got what we call formic acid in it. I mean, there's a whole family of ants that are called the formicid ants, and they contain formic acid, which, although not particularly toxic, can burn the tongue a bit, doesn't taste very nice. And it's, if you ever eat something that's been infested by ants and you pick it up late at night and it tastes sort of peppery and quite burny on the tongue, that is formic acid. And so I think you'll find that termites are a far preferable meal for something like a dwarf mongoose than will those ants be. I think you'll probably find that birds have a better or greater ability to digest them, simply because they'd be eaten more often by birds. These chaps tend to go for things like scorpions and eggs and small reptiles and that sort of thing. This is magnificent. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that little thing is, it's right next to the vehicle. Only about, what, Dave, about 3 feet now. Yeah, there's the vehicle. I don't know where on earth this troop of mongoose was yesterday, or a few days ago, when I was trying to film them. Oh, I'm just going to try and shift myself so I can have a look. Curious Cook, on YouTube. You want to know if the mongoose will dust bath in order to clean themselves. If you watch them carefully, you'll find that they actually clean each other. So they don't do much in the way of dust bathing. Dave, look at these ones on the tree here. This is just wonderful. Isn't this special? So cool. And those two were cleaning each other. Now they're playing, of course. And they do a lot of cleaning and playing with each other. And those are young ones. Now, of course, play behavior, we discuss it a lot and we see it a lot in all the mammal species. Incredibly important part of growing up if you're a mammal. And that's why it happens. It's not simply because it's a fun thing to do. There's a great reason that young mammals like to play and older ones don't like to play so much. Well, some do, but mostly you get a little bit tired eventually of playing. And that's because your neurosystem and your musculature has developed to the extent that you don't need to play anymore to make things work. I'm just going to try and make the picture slightly brighter. There we go. You can see a little pink nose. I'm amazed that the termites tolerate this. I don't suppose they have an enormous amount of choice, really. And they probably just have sort of bored up the areas where the mongoose are. So those tunnels, like that one you can see there, that the mongoose will go down, I suspect is probably boarded up on the inside so that the termites are not actually around where the mongoose are living. Of course, the termites do need to build the mound, or they build the mound by default. And so there will be openings, especially in hot weather, because those openings are very important air conditioners and very important at regulating the temperature in the mounds. And I guess then the tenants will eat the landlords. That little thing has now got too close for us to even film. Smiles for Rafe or Race. You want to know why they're not bothered by the biting termites. Well, smiles for Race, most of the time the termites will not be able to bite, so the workers can't bite. They don't have the mouth parts for it. For the soldiers, I suspect you'll find that the mongoose are actually just very skilled at staying away from the bites. They'll bite them on the abdomen and get them from there, and then that's what they'll eat. You might find also, though, that there's a situation here where they don't eat the soldiers, and when the soldiers take over, often what happens is if you go to a mound like this and you go to a piece of the mound that is being freshly built, it will be covered by workers. And as soon as they perceive a threat, the workers disappear inside and they're replaced immediately by vicious soldiers. And maybe you can see now none of them seem to be eating any termites. Maybe all the workers have been replaced by soldiers now, and so the mongoose are avoiding. These two are having a massive fight underneath this log. Now they've now gone too far behind. I'll keep watching. But there are two of them having a right royal ruckus there. There we go. Dave, if you look right under the log here. There. Just look in there. They're having a huge fight. One of them was, there we go. And I think that's play, but it's definitely play behavior. There are three of them now in the middle of it. And the whole troop now will not stray far from this mound. The day is pretty much over for these chaps. That is so cool. 4 of them. They're all young. They're sort of teenager, I guess teenager sized. Little smaller ones just joined them, slightly smaller than the others. And wants to get in on the action. Biting one of them's ears. Little pink mouths, you can see when they start to bite each other. Bright pink inside to the mouth and sharp needle-like little teeth. That is classic, look at them. And I'm always amazed by how adept they are at being sort of semi-bipedal. A bit like a meerkat. A meerkat, of course, is able to sort of sit back on its haunches. And these can do the same thing. And when they're fighting like that, they kind of rear up and sit on their haunches. And that's how they fight with each other. Which, of course, most quadrupedal or four-footed animals struggle to do. In fact, just about anything other than a human being struggles to do that. This is just wonderful. Interesting one, James Richard. Are any of the larger mongoose species a threat to the dwarf mongoose? I would have thought a slender mongoose, probably not. That's the largest diurnal mongoose that we get here. They're about 4 times the size of a dwarf. They might be, but I think it's unlikely. I think a white-tailed mongoose might be a bit more of a threat, but they, of course, are nocturnal and would be much too big to get anywhere near the entrance burrows of these little mongoose. So I think maybe a white-tailed. But I don't, they definitely eat other small mammals, so I don't see why they wouldn't eat one of these chaps. Except to say, look at that one eating the alates there, Dave. Just up a bit. To the back and the right. Sorry, left. Sorry, left. One on the far left is eating termites. He's pulling out the youngsters, the royals that are coming out to fly. That's him there. You can just see the shiny wings, shiny gossamer wings of the poor alates who are not going to be able to even make their nuptial flight. Delicious peanut-tasting dinner for this mongoose. Of course, lots of other carnivores will eat them, but they do have a very powerful smelling anal gland. All the mongoose have something similar, and so they can be pretty smelly, and I think that probably helps to defend them against predatory attack. But of course, we have seen them being eaten by leopards. I've seen plenty of leopards chase them, even if it's just for fun, especially young leopards. Speaking of which, everybody, you know that Karula's 2 cubs are absolutely fine. We know that, so please don't worry about them. We'll keep you updated as and when we get news. Oh no, these termites are taking a hammering. These dudes. Do you see them disappear like that? Wondering if there isn't a bird, or if maybe it was just the movement on the back of the vehicle here. No, it must have been us. Cat in Tampa, just as you asked your question, you say you should know this. I don't see why you should know this at all, Cat. So many animals out here. You want to know if they have a sentry, like meerkats have a sentry. Yes, they do. They have a number of sentries. I'm not sure if their roles are as defined as they are within the meerkats, but certainly there will be adults that are around looking out all the time, just like that one's doing. And they made one alarm call, just one, and they all disappeared. It was amazing to see. I've never actually seen that. I'm completely calm, eating their termites, running around, playing, one alarm call, gone, all of them. And you can maybe just hear them talking to each other. Brilliant mongoose sighting this. Where were you all the other day? And they will go down into the mound well before dark, so that they can be totally safe by the time the nocturnal animals move around. An owl would happily eat one of these chaps. So they'll stay away from any darkness. This is just the most amazing sighting. That group in the middle there are aloe grooming. You can see them cleaning each other. And we had a question there about whether they take dust baths or whether they, how they clean themselves. They kind of do it for each other. Another really important part of many mammal societies is that kind of aloe grooming, or the I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of principle. And what it is, it's reaffirming social bonds. There is a very strict hierarchy amongst the males and the females in a troop of mongoose like this. So the males will have their own hierarchy, and so will the females. And it's very similar to a wild dog pack. And Deb in Ohio, you were wondering about the hierarchy and the social structure. It's actually extremely similar to a wild dog pack, where these chaps live in a society that is dominated by an alpha pair, a male and a female, who are the only ones to breed. Sometimes a beta pair might breed, and just as with the dogs, those pups, as they're called with mongoose, may or may not be killed by the alpha pair. And then amongst all the rest of the subordinate members of the troop, there is a definite hierarchy. Separate sex hierarchy, so the males and females will be in different hierarchies. And those social bonds and hierarchies are reaffirmed by what looks like innocuous play behavior and a bit of aloe grooming here and there. They will all have very deep meaning to the social structure of this little troop. And that's one of the things we're hoping as the months go by here to try and document, when we will probably do quite a lot more filming of them going forward. Brent Leo Smith come in. Brent is trying to hail me on the radio, I think. I'm currently with a troop of dwarf mongoose on Zoe's Road. Affirmative, thank you. So Brent's just trying to find out where I am so that we don't overlap. And he's going to head off towards the eastern parts of Buffelshoek. We're on the west with the largest troop of dwarf mongoose I've seen for a long time, and certainly the most confiding. It's just brilliant. Now, Katrina and Adrian, you're asking basically about the taxonomy of a mongoose. Katrina, you want to know if they are basically weasels, and Adrian, you want to know if they are rats. They are neither. A rat, of course, is a rodent, which is an entirely different order. So the rodents would include rats, gerbils, squirrels, guinea pigs, the capybara, which is an enormous rodent of South America, and even the porcupine, believe it or not. It's the largest rodent that we get out here. Then, if you go up a level to the order, this order is called the order the Herpestidae, which basically includes only the mongoose that we get here, and of course the surrogate or meerkat. Now, the weasels are in a family of their own as well, and their family is called hang on a second, I do know this, I'm actually looking at it now. It's the Mustelidae, that's right. So it's the same family as the badgers belong to. Now, what's interesting, I'm not going to show you the book because there isn't actually a diagram of it, but the family, or the order Carnivora, is split into two suborders. One, the Caniforma, or the dog-like carnivores, and two, the Feliformia, or the cat-like carnivores. And the rodents are not in either of those two areas. They're in a completely different order of their own. But the subfamily, or the suborder, that the mongoose belong to is the cat suborder, the Feliformiae, and the weasels and the badgers, they belong to the Caniformia, or the dog suborder. So it's quite interesting that they're not vaguely related to weasels, and I can see why you'd think they would be related to weasels, and you can also see why they might be thought of to be related to rodents or rats, but they're completely different. I'll try and actually draw that for you as straight lines. It's probably quite easy for me to draw for you. All right, let's leave these chaps to themselves. We'll carry on down. I'm wondering if that magnificent herd of elephants won't be at Treehouse Waterhole, so let's go and have a look there. Marvellous. Thank you, chaps. I'm not even afraid of the engine noise anymore, which is fantastic. Alrighty, let's go across to Brent while we move, and we'll give you an update from him.
So, unfortunate news. Well, fortunate if you're in Kahuma. They were found with a buffalo kill, from what I could hear, in Simbambili. So just after we left you, when we were chatting to Sean, we found the tracks of them crossing, and then about 10 minutes later, we heard over the radio that they'd been located. So we've decided to come to the far east of Djuma now and just have a quick squiz around, see what's out and about. So far, very little that has a heartbeat, but we will see what we can see. Oh, here we have a lovely little sickle bush. It's got some pretty little flowers. You can see a very pink one there, and then you see the very sort of slightly bedraggled just to its left. So, all that one down there. So you see where there's pink, and some of them are white. So there's a pink, that one still hasn't opened properly. If we go down from that one, left slightly, there we go. There's bedraggled white. So pink has not yet been pollinated, and white has. So there we go, a color signal from this tree's flowers to let the insects know which flower it should be focused on. A nice little old common name for them was the Chinese lantern tree. There's very pretty flowers hanging down and look a little bit like a lantern. In guiding fraternities, quite often known as the flat tire tree, very, very dense wood, and those spines have been known to work their way through quite a few game drive tires over the years.